All right. How do you know that that person is the one God has for you? Um, I will say this. Um, I believe it's the duty of every born again believer to marry within the faith. I'm glad you mentioned that part about being unequally yoked. I believe it's important that we marry within the faith because when you have children, you don't want to confuse them by teaching them two different forms of doctrines. Um, and most kids raised in households like that tend to not become Christian or anything for that matter. They're indecisive when it comes to faith. But I will say this, that if you're not completing the task that God has assigned you to do, if you haven't allowed yourself to be filled with the Spirit and actually have your gift of the Spirit and walking in your gift, I don't think you're necessarily ready to find your spouse, because whomever you marry will complement you in your duty for Christ. If you marry in the faith and both of you are spirit-filled, born-again believers, you'll complement each other in your ministry, in your walk, whatever you're called to do. If you're a person who is called to preach, but you've married somebody and it wasn't whom God had for you, but you've married this person, you are now joined, you're now one. But your marriage may have struggles or difficulties because while you're trying to minister or do what God has called you to do, this person won't understand. You know, they're not filled with the Spirit, they're not where they need to be. So when you say, oh, honey, I got to go to church or I got to go do this, it's going to be a friction there because they feel like it's all about them. You know, it's like, why do you need to go be bothered with these church folk again? Why can't you stay home? Or why are you always ministering? So I really do believe that both of you should be spirit-filled, born-again believers that are walking in your calling so that you can both hear clearly from God on if your union is to be one. When you do it that way, there's less problems. There's still hope. If you got married and both of you got saved afterwards, then, you know, once you've, you know, given your heart to God, you know, He makes all things new. Just there may be a struggle there. But the way you would know is I would go by fasting and praying before the Lord. I would ask Him that, you know, Lord, this is the person I have in mind to marry. Is this whom you have for me? And I'll wait for Him to give me an answer. And as long as a person is willing to abide by the Bible and you're willing to abide by the Word and you're both living the life that a Christian should live, then I think your union will be blessed.